Hello and welcome to episode 183 of Magic Rays of Light, a podcast exploring the world of Apple TV and so much more. I'm your host Sigmund Judge, and I'm joined by my co-host Mr. Devon Dundee. And, well, Devon, it's almost showtime.
It's hard to believe that it's already September as we're recording this and that we're just a week away from finding out what Apple has in store for us. It's supposed to be awe-dropping. And I don't know about you, Sigmund, but the anticipation is high around here for me. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to what Apple have got to show. The reality is my attention is drifting to different parts of the kind of like home cinema and film spaces as well this year. There's lots and lots going on. To give you an idea, French audio pioneers Trinov have just pre-announced their first new audio processor in over a decade, which has me very, very excited and my wallet crying at even the thought of contemplating a purchase. Dolby Vision have just announced Dolby Vision 2 and Dolby Vision 2 Max, which were originally called Dolby Vision IQ, and I got a bit of a hands-on with that number of months back, so I'm looking forward to delving into that at a later date with you, Devon. And then, of course, London Film Festival is going to be announcing their full lineup the morning after we record this podcast. And if that wasn't enough, one thing that I think is going to have you very excited, Devon, I'm definitely excited, and I know friend of the show, Chance Miller, must be over the moon with this. Coldplay have been filming their sold-out Wembley shows in Apple Immersive Video using Blackmagic designed Cine Ursa immersive cameras. But ahead of tech season and, of course, Techtember, Techtober, Technember, I don't know if that's a thing. I wanted to check in with you, get a vibe check ahead of what is going to be like a second holiday for us come Apple and I guess more prominently iPhone season this year. But as I said, you know, my eyes are kind of darting around to what's happening over at CEDIA and what's going to happen and in Berlin when it comes to home cinema tech as well very, very soon. So how are you feeling? Because I'll be honest, I'm a little bit teched out to a degree. But the iPhone holds a special place for me. It's my capture device. It's, you know, when things go to plan, unlike this week, when I want to go on adventures or if I want to go out and do stuff, I want to capture it with my phone and I want to find out cool things with my phone when I'm doing those things. And sometimes I just want to put it on Do Not Disturb and be present.
Yeah, I'm thankful for those features as well. I feel the same way about my phone in terms of a lot of capturing. Communication, of course, is an important one for me, but I'm really excited about what Apple's going to show us next week. And for me, yeah, the vibes are good. You know, it's a mix now because the season has changed for me over time and into more coverage. And so my eyes have been darting a lot too, but within my Vision Pro, doing research and getting notes together and starting to write for the review. Yeah, I've been thinking this week, I wrote about it in the Club Mac Stories monthly log actually just this week, about why I love this time of year so much. And the way it does, it feels like the year starts in a lot of ways in terms of the work that we're doing in terms of coverage and things like that. And with our devices, it feels like a new beginning. But it's just a lot of fun to be a part of the community around it all and the conversations and the reactions. That's what I look forward to most. Of course, the announcements are fun. Trying out new hardware is fun. I'm looking forward to that. But really just chatting with people and getting to share excitement and disappointments and whatever it is that we experience next week. I'm just really looking forward to that and getting to be a part of that conversation. It's a privilege to get to share, but also hear what other people have to say. And that's what I'm most looking forward to. This time next week, we'll be talking about what Apple announces, and we'll get to be a part of that conversation through the podcast and through our other methods of chatting with people, and I'm just really looking forward to that. This week's episode, we're going to spend quite a bit of time trying to guess what Apple has in store for us. Of course, we always have our little competitive spin on it, which is a lot of fun. And this year we're going to start off just a little bit different in honor of a film that is coming out on Apple TV Plus this Friday. We were hoping to cover it this week, but I haven't had a chance to see it. It wasn't in theaters around me, so we're going to wait another week so I have a chance to see it, as well as you have, Sigmund, and cover it together. Of course, that's Highest to Lowest, and we look forward to talking about that next week. But you had the idea, Sigmund, of introducing a new round to our prediction game inspired by Highest to Lowest. It's kind of like a higher or lower type of thing where we've got 2 questions. Each of us is going to get to go first on one question and pose it to the other and set the bar, and then the other person will get to go higher or lower depending on how they think we're setting it. So in terms of scoring, these questions are worth 3 points each to the victor. But if the person who poses the question is the furthest away, they lose 1 point from their overall score. So there's a little bit of added weight to that initial guess to help set up the question. Now, there must be a gap of at least 10 between competing predictions, be it how many times or how many seconds. We're going to get into that here in just a second. I think you're going to start with the first question, right, Sigmund?
Yeah, I wonder, given how big a deal liquid glass is this year, it got me wondering if Apple Intelligence is going to take a little bit of a backseat this year. And so my question that I pose is, how many times is the word or phrase Apple Intelligence either mentioned or shown during this presentation? And I'll be honest, you know how the competitive juices flow with me. I did a little bit of research by rewatching last year's presentation, and what we got was a Apple Intelligence count of 48 mentions. So I'm going to go slightly lower because I do think Apple Intelligence is important, and depending on what categories we delve into during this presentation, Apple Intelligence could be quite present here. So I'm going to go with 35 times.
Ooh. Okay, 35. So that's like, 13 lower than last year.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to be at least 10 away from you, either higher or lower. So I've got to decide which way I want to go.
And remember, if someone says Apple Intelligence and Apple Intelligence appears on the screen, that's 2 mentions.
Oh, okay. That's good to know. I have to think, I know liquid glass is going to take some time probably, but I have to think with some of the devices we could be getting and some of the enhancements they could be getting, I'm going to have to go higher, Sigmund. I'm going to say 45 because I think there's going to be quite a bit of Apple Intelligence talk. I think it's still considered by the company to be a selling point of these products, and as they're pitching them to people, I think that it's going to be mentioned quite a bit. So I probably wouldn't have gone 45. I wouldn't go that high if you had asked me to start, but based on where you put it, I think you said it very well. And yeah, I'm going to say 45 mentions of Apple Intelligence. I think it's going to be up there. But we'll see, because that's pretty close to last year when Apple Intelligence was really fresh. So it's risky. But we'll see what happens. Okay, I want to talk about the Apple TV and the home category and Apple Originals, because, of course, we always look out for them to be mentioned, get some time during keynotes, and there's usually some kind of mention, but the question is, how much time do these products get? And, of course, that depends on the product mix of what's being announced and how much time they want to spend on other things. So there's a lot of factors going in here. I'm going to set my guess, counting in seconds, because that's how we're going to measure this. I'm going to set my guess at 300 seconds, which would be about 5 minutes. You know, I think they have to be efficient with their timing in these events. There's a lot packed into it. So yeah, that's where I'm going to set it. What do you think?
I have been thinking about this, and I keep going back and forth, and you're going to, well, we'll get into it on our regular picks in a moment. I don't know if this is the month for home and Apple TV. I don't know for a fact. But it feels like Apple Originals have to be highlighted. Look at the lineup of originals that we have through the fall to the end of the year. This is the perfect opportunity to really show off what you've got to offer, especially with that price increase recently for monthly subscribers. I am stumped here because initially and this might even go against my other predictions here. I was going to say 5 minutes. In fact, I have it as a note saying 5 minutes. But you know what? I'm going to say 3 minutes.
Wow, going lower here. Wow. So I went higher than you. You're going lower than me. You think 3 minutes?
I would be happy just to take that point off of you and gain those 2 points. It's not necessarily what I believe. I'm just playing the game, Devon.
Oh, yeah, totally fair. I mean, and if that does come into conflict with some future predictions, then we'll just call it hedging. And, so you're not too all in on any particular basket. I think it'll be really interesting to see. I was struggling with this one in terms of the percentage of overall time for the event, because we don't know exactly how long the event could be. Because it's online, they could very easily add time to it if there's more. And so we really don't know. It all depends on what they have for us. But there you have it. So I say 5 minutes, you say 3. We'll be keeping an eye out. It's going to be interesting to keep track of all this, like with stopwatches and accumulating the time, and be fun to break all this down next week when the time comes. But that's our highest to lowest round. Of course, we always have our regular picks, our predictions for what's going to happen, kind of just in the normal realm of things, not going too far out there just yet. We'll save that for the next round. These are worth 2 points each. We've got 5 of them each. And Sigmund, I'm going to let you go first. What's your first regular pick?
It's completely contradictory to what I just said with the timed picks. My first regular pick is a new Apple TV. I have to believe, Devon, 10 years to the day since tvOS and Apple TV HD were announced. I have to believe that the Apple TV is getting its long overdue upgrade. I have to believe that there's some tech inside there, whether it is a new Wi-Fi chip, whether it is an upgraded A17 Pro chip, as has been rumoured. I have to believe. Now, there's part of my brain saying, okay, lots of news and rumours have swirled about, there being delays to what Apple want to do in the home. And then there was a prominent rumour on that display that could move around and follow you, which everyone grasped on. And then I think everyone didn't latch on to the idea that maybe this product is a thing that just actually doesn't come or isn't ready yet. And so, I don't know, maybe we're going to have to wait another month this year. Maybe we have to wait until the beginning of next year, which would absolutely kill me. But I've got to stay positive. I've got to believe that Apple take note of that anniversary as much as we do. 10 years of Apple TV. They have to mention at least Apple TV and give us something to be excited about from that part of their product lineup. At least that's where I'm coming from.
Well, I mean, the rumors have really been pointing to a new Apple TV very soon, and this would be a great opportunity to debut it. So I appreciate the pick, Sigmund. I am always going to be rooting alongside you for the Apple TV as a product, so I hope you get this one. And more than anything, I applaud your belief. Believe and believe, right? Stake your points on it, and I like it. So that's a great first pick. For my first pick, I'm going to go iPhone because, of course, we know the iPhone is going to be the star of the show. It always is every September, except for that one year when it came in October, but we don't talk about that. But there's a lot to talk about in terms of iPhone. We've each got a few things we want to mention. So I'm going to start with the iPhone I'm most excited about to see this year, and that is the iPhone Air. I'm going to say Apple introduces a new Air model of the iPhone with a focus on thinness. We've heard rumors about this for a couple of years. I think it was originally rumored to be called the iPhone Slim, which was like a translation kind of thing, I think. And the Air branding makes so much sense. We've never had an iPhone with that branding, but it's something Apple obviously loves. And in terms of the technology that they're implementing and trying to get ready for future projects, which we'll predict in future episodes, maybe next year, I think an ultra-thin iPhone makes a lot of sense for this year. And yeah, I'm even going to stake my name on the name Air.
I like it. I think it's something that is highly anticipated. So, it's a wise pick, I think. A couple of questions on the iPhone Air. Do you think they take it out of an envelope? And also, where do you think it's going to be priced in the lineup?
I would absolutely love if they pulled it out of an envelope as an homage to the MacBook Air introduction. That would be amazing. Or maybe some kind of way of referencing it without directly doing the envelope. I don't know. But something about it, I would love that kind of reference. That would be awesome. In terms of pricing, I feel like this fits where the iPhone Plus currently fits. I don't know that it needs to be more than that necessarily. Maybe like a $50 price increase just because of world trends and where we're at today, but I don't see them trying to stake out a higher price for it necessarily. I think where the pros are at, where the baseline is at, that gap in the middle, I think the Air is going to fit there to keep things simple. I could be wrong because there's a lot of new technology going into it, but I just don't see them going past the Pro with the Air in terms of pricing. To me, that would just be really confusing.
I think they go head on with the iPhone Pro in terms of pricing. And the Pro Max becomes like the upper tier because it's going to have something like it normally does that is exclusive to that bigger chassis. We'll see, but yeah, I'm very, very excited for the iPhone Air, and who knows, it might be the choice to go with this time. But what I will say is, for my second pick for this upcoming event, I think we're finally going to see ProMotion come to all iPhone models this year. I'm an iPhone Pro user, right? I always have been. And I could feel the difference straight away. I love the way that Apple have integrated ProMotion because it's only changing refresh rate in accordance with what you're doing on the iPhone, which I think is amazing. Yeah, it just gives you that kind of silky, more natural feel to it. It feels like a premium product, whereas I have tried friends and family's normal iPhones, and it feels like in a lot of ways, whilst they've gone above and beyond in previous years, that's where I would say the iPhone has been lagging behind some other choices from other manufacturers.
We heard mention that possibly Apple was working on like 90 hertz for the standard iPhone at one point instead of going all the way to 120. Would they call that ProMotion? Would it actually scale up and down? We'll have to wait and see. I would love it if they just put ProMotion on all of them, because as someone who is considering the Air this year, just because I think it'd be cool to try out and, try out the new iPhone form factor, I don't want to give up on my ProMotion on my iPhone Pro because I do enjoy it a lot. And so I hope it comes down the line. I wouldn't be surprised to see it maybe cut the difference at 90 instead of 120. But also, I think you probably need ProMotion for the always-on display, right? Because that's going all the way down to 1 hertz. And so if the Air is going to have the always-on display, unless they've got some other solution, it's going to need to be ProMotion. So I would love to see ProMotion come all the way down, just so that the iPhone could be meeting and exceeding the competitors in that area and not be such a kind of an asterisk on the iPhone for people who care about that kind of thing. So yeah, fingers crossed for this. I would love to see it.
Now, the thing that always has me excited with these presentations is what Apple do with the iPhone Pro model, because I just feel like it's gone above and beyond, and we do see things trickle down, right? And that's where I'm thinking in terms of ProMotion. But I have 2 more picks that are specific to the Pro iPhones. So picks 3 and 4 that I want to get into. And one of them I think is going to be an optional extra, which would be interesting, I think. And that would be that the iPhone Pro models get a new anti-reflective screen option. Now, I didn't go down that route for my iPad Pro, and in all honesty, there's a part of me that regrets that situation, although I'm barely out with my iPad Pro, and therefore I don't have the sun issue. I barely have the sun issue in London, but I think I would have that issue, and I think I experience that issue more with my iPhone. And, if you're using it as a production tool or anything along those lines. You want something that's going to be able to adapt to different environments. And so I'm going with, again, this anti-reflective screen option coming for the first time to iPhone through the iPhone Pro line.
I think the fact that they got it on the iPad Pro, which is a mobile touch-first device, shows that they're moving in that direction. And so the iPhone, I think, is the next logical step here. Apple seems to be moving towards this trend of liking to offer anti-reflective coatings on some of its premium products as an add-on because people will pay for it and benefit from it. I just don't go outside, Sigmund. That's my solution for reflections on my screen. Not really, but I do think that a lot of people would appreciate the anti-reflective coating on the iPhone. I think it would probably have to be a slightly different take than what they do on the other screens, even the iPad, because iPad Pros get used in laptop configurations so much that even an iPad Pro probably isn't getting tapped quite as much as an iPhone. But I do think that a lot of people would take advantage of it, and that Apple, of any company, would be able to come up with one that's durable and ready for on the go. So, yeah, again, this makes a lot of sense. I think you're doing very smart with your picks here, Sigmund, and picking things that I can't help but root for. Yeah, I hope you get these points.
All right, well, my next pick is a little bit wild, and that is that this year's iPhone Pro models will be the first iPhones ever to be able to record in 8K video, and by a proxy of that, 4K spatial video. Now, we've heard rumours of maybe a mechanical zoom on one of the lenses on iPhone Pro Max, but where does that leave iPhone Pro, the normal non-Max model? And I just think this makes a lot of sense. 48 megapixels per lens is what has been heavily touted leading up to this event. That, I think, maybe ushers in 8K video. And it might also be the reason why I've been saying Apple TV and not Apple TV 4K. But that's something completely different. Yeah, alongside this anti-reflective screen option, I'm going to say that iPhone Pro models this year will be the first ever to be able to record in 8K video and hopefully 4K spatial video, because I think from our perspectives, that's what we've wanted all along without having to go out and get a Blackmagic Ursa Cine Immersive or your GoPro or whatever else it might be.
Absolutely. This would be wild, and I think it would be incredible for Apple to do, but they're continuing to push the Pro iPhones into that professional videography space, and this would be a huge step towards that and a huge step for spatial videography if everyone could just record 4K spatial with the Pro iPhone in their pockets. I think that would be amazing and cut down on the trade-offs that you have to make when shooting spatial video on your phone right now. Every year, Apple comes out with some camera feature on the Pro phone that I'm just like, I can't believe they did that. So I've learned to just not have any restraints on the expectations of what Apple's going to do, because I'm sure there are people who thought they'd never go log. There are people who never thought they would be able to push the camera as far as they have. And they just continue to do it every single year without stopping. Yeah, this could be the year for 8K. That would be incredible.
So those are a bunch of iPhone Pro picks. You got some catching up to do, Devon. So what have you got for us with regular pick 2?
I'm going to stick in the iPhone realm, but this is actually more of an accessory pick. I'm going to say that Apple introduces a first-party lanyard or wrist strap for the iPhone and AirPods Pro. AirPods Pro have had that lanyard hookup since the AirPods Pro 2 debuted, but Apple's only ever sold third-party straps for it. And I don't know about you, but I've never actually bought a strap for my AirPods Pro. I just stick them in my pocket. But we're hearing rumors this year that Apple's iPhone cases are actually going to include a loop for lanyards and accessories as well, and possibly even like cross-body straps for people who like to wear their iPhones across their bodies. I think, is that what Seth Rogen's character is doing in Platonic this season? I think so, but it seems to be a trend. So I think Apple's going to capitalize on this and not only introduce the cases, but also introduce some kind of strap or lanyard for these accessories to go along with it so you can do it all first party. I think it's be a really interesting expansion of the accessory story, and it's always fascinating to see what Apple does with the accessories this year. And, thinking about it a little bit more, it may not actually be Apple itself. It may be Beats that does this kind of thing because they've been using Beats for some of those more out there accessories as well. But I think somewhere from an Apple company will be able to buy first-party lanyards and wrist straps this year.
What do you think about the materials that are going to be used? Because we want, I miss the leather stuff. I totally understand and I appreciate where Apple are coming from in terms of the environmental aspect of that change, but I don't think that their products ever fully recovered from it. And so I've been trying to find leather goods that are sustainably sourced, and I'd almost prefer to be able to do that from Apple again.
Yeah, I would love there to be a more premium offering from Apple in terms of accessories and materials. There's been a hole there. Fine woven didn't end up working out in the long term, at least in terms of phone cases. I think it's still around on watch bands and maybe the wallet, but I think that they're going to have to take another stab at some kind of material to replace it. We've heard a little bit of rumblings about something called tech woven, some kind of like stitched fabric that they might be using, and I think that'll be interesting to see if that pans out. I think it could work for phone cases and for watch bands and even for these lanyards and wrist straps that we're talking about. So that's what I'm hoping to see, is the 2.0 of fine woven, but something that's more durable and capable of holding up and doesn't become a meme. That's not what we want this year, but I think they'll have something in that premium material space to replace it. So I was talking about AirPods Pro 2, but of course we're expecting a new version of AirPods Pro potentially at this event. And something that's been in the back of my mind ever since Powerbeats Pro 2 debuted was the heart rate monitoring, and how in a lot of ways Powerbeats Pro 2 are very similar to AirPods Pro 2 except for that feature. So I think that the next step for AirPods Pro is to integrate some health monitoring features. And I'm going to say it starts with heart rate monitoring. So my prediction is that the next generation of AirPods Pro will feature heart rate monitoring similar to Powerbeats Pro 2. There's been rumors also about temperature sensing, but I don't know. I'm a little more dubious on that. I mean, I would love that, to be able to take an inner ear temperature reading with my AirPods. I just don't know that that's necessarily going to be ready for this year, for this generation, but we'll have to wait and see. But I do think heart rate monitoring, they've obviously got it down for the form factor on the Powerbeats, and I think it's coming to the AirPods next.
I'm very much looking forward to AirPods Pro 3. It's probably going to be the highlight for me, beyond the Pro camera stuff, which always has me excited when it comes to iPhone Pro. And for that reason, my final pick is AirPods Pro 3. But from a technical aspect, I think in a lot of ways, when you look at the competitors and what they're offering, there's one thing that's a little bit lacking from AirPods Pro right now, compared to the competition. I think isolation has got a lot better on the competitors, compared to AirPods Pro. But one of the things that I've noticed, and I think actually in some ways some competitors' earbuds are starting to sound a little bit better, is because they've implemented dual drivers into their earbuds. And I think Apple would do that and would show it off. And I'm really interested to see them hopefully go down that route and show us in detail what's happening inside of our ears beyond the health stuff. I think health and everything, it's great. What I buy AirPods for is great noise isolation and great sound. And so I think to balance those things out, we really need to see that focus with this product. And I think that we're going to get that focus. Dual drivers coming to AirPods Pro 3.
Yeah, I think you make a good point. A lot of the focus for AirPods Pro 2 over the past couple of years has been health stuff, but it does all come back to the sound, right? I mean, if they don't sound great, then there's no reason to have them. And so dual drivers would be a great next step. I think every generation they try to do something to take the sound to the next level. Of course, always improving the noise cancellation and transparency as well. But dual drivers, I think, would be a great addition. My only concern there would be some kind of arbitrary volume limitations, probably, because you don't want to take them too far. I think the AirPods Pro probably get as loud now as they need to be, but in terms of audio quality, adding to that, I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, I think one thing that's probably lacking a little bit is like the low end compared to competitors. So I'm excited. I'm also excited, aside from our predictions about this like translation talk, the rumors that we'll be able to have real time translation through our ears. That would be incredible. And whilst it may not be ready for launch, I want to see it shown off and I want to dream and I want to be able to get into a beta for that kind of functionality, because from someone who I come from an Austrian German speaking family, and yet I'm really bad at it, and so there's certain communication barriers that are in the way with certain family members. And so when I go out in November to Vienna, and not this week unfortunately, but when I go out in November, I'm hoping that something like this exists. And that is going to be, I think, the wow moment if it does come to light. That'll probably be my highlight for the event, bar any Apple TV news, of course.
Yeah, I mean, all the pieces are there, right? Apple's doing this in the phone app, FaceTime, and messages on the iPhone this year. And we've had live captions for a couple of years on the phone and the watch, even using the AirPods as an input for that. So I think just makes sense to tie it all together and make the live translation through the AirPods a thing. And I also think if this happens and is announced at the event, this could get me lots of Apple Intelligence points, lots of mentions of it. This could be the big Apple Intelligence feature for AirPods. Yeah, I'm rooting for it on all levels here, not only from accessibility and access and communication, but also to help me get those 3 points, because I'd really love to win the prediction game this year. And speaking of that, I've still got 2 more regular picks to share. Both of them are going to be centered on the Apple Watch. The first is that the Apple Watch Ultra screen size will increase above that of the larger Apple Watch series model this year. The Apple Watch Ultra really got the short shaft last year. Got a new color, but no other changes, not even a generational bump. And in the process, the series models just really took off. And the larger series model actually leapfrogged the Ultra in terms of screen size, and Apple advertised that. It's like, oh, by the way, this one's now bigger than the Ultra. If you thought the Ultra was great, look at this. But I do think they're going to probably pull the old switcheroo on us and leapfrog again, because at the end of the day, I think that was kind of a quirk of the Apple Watch's story. I think the Ultra, in the long run, still needs to be the biggest Apple Watch, and it was just a little bit of a mismatch in timelines here. But I think this year the Apple Watch Ultra will get bigger and supersede the series, because they don't want to leave it like that forever.
I'm excited because it's been a while since I purchased an Apple Watch. And there hasn't been anything that has had me excited to go out and get one. I know with the slimmer chassis last year, that was enough to get you excited. I always look at the Apple Watch from my perspective from a health point of view. And of course, with all of the rigmarole over sensors and patents, I wasn't quite ready to get rid of my Apple Watch. The Apple Watch Ultra has always been something that's also I've been teased with when I've seen other people wear it. I think, oh man, it looks really, really good. And then when I try it on in store, it just looks a bit too big because I've got flimsy wrists, right? So I don't know. I'm excited for Apple Watch this year and whatever they might be up to. But one thing I've noticed that we haven't had so far, and this is a real surprise to me, is we haven't had a color pick yet, Devon.
Every year we got to have a color pick because I feel so passionately about the colors on Apple products. But my favorite on the Apple Watch ever is part of the reason why I love my Series 10 so much, and it's jet black. I adore this finish on my Apple Watch. It only continues to amaze me. I love the way it's held up. It looks really good. It hasn't scratched the way that the iPhone 7 in jet black scratched so badly. I don't know what they did to change that up, but my prediction is more of a hope and a wish, because the last time we saw jet black, it disappeared after a year. And so my prediction is going to be that it sticks around for another year, that the next generation Apple Watch series is available in jet black, because I don't want this color to go away. There was a long period where the standard aluminum Apple Watch, if you wanted a darker color, it had to be midnight. And if there's one thing people know about me, it's that I'm not a fan of the midnight finish. So I love that there's a true black on the series Apple Watches in aluminum. I want it to stick around, and I really hope the jet black lives on. So that's my prediction. I'm going to put a point on it.
I like it. And that's the end of our regular predictions worth 2 points each. It's time to go into our out there predictions, which are worth 4 points each this year. Where are we going to go? Because you haven't mentioned Apple TV once, which has me a little bit disappointed, being that this is an Apple TV podcast.
Well, of course, I'm anticipating the new Apple TV as well. I saved the Apple TV pick on my list for the out there picks because I want it to come at this event. I just worry that it's going to be next month, and so I'm a little worried to put any of my regular picks on it. But I do want to use one of my out there picks for it because I do believe, like you do, in the Apple TV. I want it to come at this event, and so I need to put some skin in the game on that. But to make it a little more interesting, I'm not just going to say there's going to be a new Apple TV. I'm going to say that the new Apple TV comes with a new input device. And I chose that wording very particularly because I don't want it to hinge solely on a redesign for the Siri remote, because I don't know that that's going to be what we see. Maybe there'll be some changes there. We'll see. Maybe backlighting would be awesome. I mean, we talk all the time about things we'd love to see added to or changed on the Siri remote. What I'd really love is something we've talked about as well and has been people have wished for so long, is some kind of gaming controller from Apple that comes with the Apple TV. I think that would be an amazing addition, an awesome option to go alongside a new Apple TV. But either way, whether it's a remote, game controller, some other input device, if there's a new input device for the new Apple TV, I'd like those points, please.
I like it. I like it a lot. And actually, we still haven't had an announcement yet when it comes to the PSVR controller support and how people are going to be able to get hold of those in stores when it comes to Vision Pro. So maybe that support was just from a developer point of view, leading up to something that's coming from Apple. Who knows? Because again, we've not heard of any like standalone sales from Sony, not even for their own customers.
Nope, not yet. So far, the only people who've been able to try it are people who already own a PSVR 2, and I'd be lying, Sigmund, if I said I hadn't considered it. I don't even have a PlayStation, but to get those controllers and test them, I'm really antsy to do that, and I can't wait till they're available so we can find out what the story is going to be there. In the long term, I think we'd all love to see Apple doing some first-party controllers, showing what they think a gaming controller could and should be like. They've had some great partnerships with other gaming controller makers, and I appreciate that very much. But if they made their own, I'd be really interested in that, and it could be the predecessor to their own VR controllers as well. So we'll have to wait and see, but that's my out there pick for the Apple TV. My other out there pick is related to the Vision Pro, and we've heard multiple times that there's a rev to the first generation Vision Pro coming. You know what? Why not just go ahead and throw a prediction out there that there's going to be an announcement of the M5 Apple Vision Pro at this event with a new head strap, which is another thing we've heard rumored as well, is that Apple released the two straps alongside the first generation Vision Pro, but there's some kind of new one in the works that's going to bring those two together, the best of both worlds in terms of comfort and ease of use, some kind of sweet solution there. So we've heard this product's coming. And I think it'd be pretty cool if the M5 debuted with the Vision Pro. Could be a cool moment for the product as well. If they want to get some visibility behind it, this event would be a great way to do it.
Sounds like an October announcement to me.
That's why it's out there, Sigmund.
I know. Well, it's out there now. Here are my out there picks. The first is very, very out there. But I want to kind of give a little bit of background on why I think this might be the case. I think it's fair to say, looking into the past year, especially with Apple Intelligence and things being delayed a little bit, and whilst it's very impressive, the overall picture that people portray Apple Intelligence to be is that it has been a bit of a failure of Apple's, right? Because we haven't got to that point that they were advertising with the last iPhones. And that redemption moment, I'm sure, will come in time, and I don't think it will be long until that redemption moment happens and everyone looks at Apple Intelligence in a completely different way. But there's one other Apple failure that has never had its redemption moment, and I think this would be the perfect time to have that redemption moment given everything that's been going on with the company from, again, the perceived failure of Apple Intelligence. And that is to launch a first-party charging accessory that can charge more than one device at a time. Now, I'm not saying it's called AirPower, but how amazing would that be? Especially considering some of the rumors that have been circulating about phones being able to charge other devices. Okay, that's great on the go, but when you go home, wouldn't it be nice to have something that's Apple designed and has those quirks that were shown to us many, many moons ago? I still remember the disappointment getting the update and seeing the press release that AirPower was not to be a thing after the big announcement. And I've just got to think with how power delivery has changed in the years afterwards and how economic Apple devices are when it comes to power consumption and power draw and charging. I've got to believe at some point we are going to get AirPower. And why not now?
I love that AirPower is the Apple story that just won't ever die. Just when we think we've all moved on from it, some new prototype comes out of it and surfaces, and we get to see what it was going to look like and all the wild things they did on the inside of it. But all of that was before MagSafe and before Apple got involved with the Qi standard with Qi 2. So it really has changed a lot. And I think if there ever was a time when Apple could be prepared to do something like that, again, it would be now. There's going to be some battery talk around the iPhone Air because it's so thin, and they're going to be AI battery saving features and things like that. But a new charging accessory would be another great way to kind of play into that conversation and add a new option for people who are going to be more concerned about battery life than ever before. I'm one of those weird people who I do everything I can within my power to stick to first-party chargers. I know it doesn't actually make a difference, but for whatever reason in my head, I just sleep better at night knowing that my devices are charging on first-party things. And I've got this little holder on my nightstand that holds a MagSafe puck and an Apple Watch charger, but both of those have moved on in the time since I installed that. And so I'm actually charging slower than I could be just because of the accessory that I'm using. So if I could get something directly from Apple that's got the latest standards and looks nice and could let me charge all of my devices in one place, I think that'd be amazing. You know what? I'm just going to say it. They should just reuse the name. People have been talking about it for years. And I know it's got kind of like that meme quality to it, but if anyone can reclaim a name and make it a new thing, it's Apple. I'm just going to say, let's do AirPower again. Let's do it.
Well, I'm going to be clear. My prediction here is a first-party charging accessory is announced that can charge more than one device at a time. But I'd love if it went all the way out to being AirPower. I will just very quickly say, I think the MagSafe pucks, I never thought they looked good. I thought they looked really messy, unless you attached an accessory to it and had it housed. I didn't get it. I still don't quite get it. So I'm sure I'm not the only one, and therefore I want to see something new from Apple. And there we go. All right, final out there pick is another Apple TV pick. But this isn't an exciting Apple TV pick because I'm hedging my bets here. My final pick is that a new Apple TV doesn't show its face on September 9th.
What?
And here's the thing. If that does happen, I'll be sad, but I'll be 4 points richer. And so we'll have to wait and see. The nice thing is, if Apple TV happens, if HomePod Mini happens, and I think in a sense it makes a lot of sense for those announcements to come. I just don't know how they're going to find the time to give everything it's just due. But if it does, we're going to have such a great episode next week.
Well, I have to respect the strategy here, Sigmund. There's no rule that says that our predictions have to have internal consistency, and so yeah, I think in terms of points, this is looking pretty good. The thing about these events is that we always have our preconceived notions going in based on rumors and whatever else, or just our hopes, right? We want to see certain things. And Apple never quite gives us exactly what we're expecting. Even if you see CAD drawings and dummies and whatever else, the reveal is always something different than what we're expecting. And that's the fun of it. I mean, we try to predict, and we want certain things to happen, but I think at the end of the day, we're going to be surprised next Tuesday, and we're going to have a lot of fun taking it all in. And then we're going to have a lot of fun calculating these scores and coming back and figuring out who won this, because there's a lot of points on the line here, a lot of things to calculate and tally up. But regardless, Sigmund, I'm just really, really pumped for next Tuesday. These predictions that we've come up with are a lot of fun. It's going to be fun to score. I'm just really anticipating next week when we get to recap the event and share how it all went, because I think it's going to be a great time.
It is. And October will be as well. And November, maybe. I'm just looking forward to being excited again, Devon. I think that's the most important thing, is, we do this because we have a passion for it, deep passion for it. And we love talking about it. As you said at the top of the show, it's a privilege to talk about this with you each week, but also, for our listeners. We'll find out very soon. Of course, everyone's going to be able to follow along live September the 9th at 10 a.m. Pacific, streaming on YouTube, but more importantly, across all of your devices in the TV app and on Apple devices exclusively in 4K and spatial audio. I will be definitely plonked up in front of my Apple TV for that.
Now, of course, as we anticipate the next Apple event and try to predict what's going to happen, the world of Apple TV news just continues on, Sigmund, and we've been keeping up with all of it. Let's start with some news out of Beats this week, because on YouTube, the company released a short teaser for their upcoming Powerbeats Fit earbuds. The buds look similar to the Beats Fit Pro with an in-ear design and a silicone wingtip to keep them in place, and pricing and other feature details are not yet known, but the video does reveal that the Powerbeats Fit are coming this fall, so it'll be interesting to see. Maybe they could come alongside like the iPhone release day, something like that. That would be interesting. Maybe they're trying to get this news out before the announcements of new AirPods to not confuse people. I don't know, but this is going to be another addition to the Beats line, and one I think is going to be intriguing, especially to athletes.
Is it also maybe a precursor to a possible price bump on AirPods? I feel almost like Apple could get away with a price bump on AirPods Pros, which everyone, I walk around, everyone's got them in their ears. Whereas they might not be able to get away with it on the iPhones.
Interesting. I could definitely see a price increase coming to the AirPods Pro this year. I mean, they're normally $250, so I could see like $300. I think a lot of people would still be willing to pay that for them, especially with the new generation. That'd be the opportunity to do it, and they could fill in the lower end of the price spectrum with those Beats. I think that would make a lot of sense. And it's cool to see the Powerbeats line growing, because we had Powerbeats Pro 2, now we got Powerbeats Fit coming, and it's a really cool alternative to AirPods for people who are looking for something a little bit different. Beats also teamed up with South Korean singer Jennie Kim to release limited edition Beats Solo 4 headphones in a ruby red finish. These include 2 bows you can put on the sides as well. They'll be available for sale this Friday. So Beats is always doing something interesting with collaborations with artists, doing new colors. I'm going to stick with my black Beats Solo, Sigmund. I think they fit me pretty well, but I will say these headphones, I continue to love them so much. And if you want ones in ruby red, this is your opportunity.
I'm still waiting for the gold.
Most definitely.
All right. In app news this week, for the first time, Apple Music radio stations will be available outside of the Apple Music app, as Apple's teamed up with live internet radio service TuneIn to offer all 6 of Apple Music's radio stations. They include Apple Music One, Apple Music Hits, Apple Music Country, Apple Musica Uno, Apple Music Club, and Apple Music Chill. And they're ad-free and at no cost. And really, this is a reverse of what has been a big part of Apple Music and the radio tab for quite some time, right? We've had the inclusion of international broadcasters through, I believe, a partnership with TuneIn to bring those international stations and third-party stations into the music app. So we're just kind of seeing a reverse of this. And it's interesting because there was a report, I think earlier this week, about Apple Music and where its growth seems to be their live broadcasts and their show programming. as opposed to people dipping into their libraries and listening that way, which is why we've seen that core focus over the last few weeks with the new studio in Los Angeles, which looks absolutely gorgeous, by the way, and is something we haven't talked about previously. But yeah, really, really good news.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to try to get these radio stations out in front of more people. That seems to be something that we see recurring with Apple services, is they're willing to partner more and just try to get things out there more. And TuneIn's a big platform to get people to listen and potentially push them back to Apple Music for their music streaming when that time does come. Also this week, Rode released a huge update for its Rodecaster video device that includes support for NDI video. This is video input over the network, whether that be Wi-Fi or Ethernet, being able to transmit video signals from one device to another without necessarily needing them to be physically connected to one another over the network. If you've kept up with Federico and John's gaming experiments, especially on the Vision Pro, they did a lot of NDI stuff with some transmitters and receivers. I know, Sigmund, you've messed around with this with your Vision Pro as well. It's a really interesting technology, and now it's coming to Rodecaster video devices as well. And what's really exciting about this to me is that the company also updated its Rode Capture app for iOS to allow an iPhone's camera, either the front or the back or both of them, to act as wireless camera inputs for Rodecaster video. So not only can the device receive NDI signals, but now your phone can actually serve as an NDI camera for the Rodecaster. This is going to pave the way for some really interesting live setups for people who are in that ecosystem. Of course, we've seen similar things with Final Cut Camera, and we've also seen Blackmagic doing this kind of thing. So the technology is a little bit different underlying each of them, but it is interesting to see this trend continue, and now Rodecaster's getting in on it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I record on a Rodecaster Pro, right? And Rodecaster, their hardware is amazing. I think if you've got a little bit of money to invest in one of their products, then it's the way to go, especially when it comes to, say, wireless video now with NDI. Fantastic stuff. I do wonder where Final Cut Video as an app is and where, what its future is going to be amongst this competition. Obviously, that's standalone, and you need a powerful iPad to get the very best out of that. So that's going to be interesting as well. I don't know when we'll hear more about Final Cut Video, or really even Final Cut Pro for that matter. We just talked about Blackmagic as well. So it's an interesting space.
It comes in waves, but it's always fun when a new wave comes and we get to talk about it. And for those who use that hardware, it's awesome to have those capabilities. I know that I use NDI at work for certain things, and it's an incredible technology, and it's cool to see more people getting access to it.
Now, let's talk about some Apple original news. And I think we need to start with our trailer talk this week, because we finally got the trailer for all of you.
Laura and Simon have been best friends since college, but over the years they've realized their bond is more than platonic.
The question that this film poses is, can they and should they risk everything to explore a love that has existed all along? And, I can't say any more than that, because I actually screened all of you this time last year at London Film Festival ahead of its acquisition by Apple. And it made sense, right? It stars Brett Goldstein alongside Imogen Poots, was co-written by Brett Goldstein and William Bridges, who also directs in his directorial debut. And it's adapted from a previous short from the duo that came out many, many moons ago. As I say, last year it debuted at TIFF and then London Film Festival. Lots has been said so far, but this will be your first look at the film. What did you think, knowing that it was a sci-fi rom-com going in? Was it what you expected?
Yeah, it's pretty similar to what I was expecting, but I think what I wasn't anticipating was just how hard it would hit me. Just in the trailer alone, you can already tell watching this trailer is going to be an emotional one, and I don't think I'm going to come out of this film without some tears, Sigmund, just based on what I've seen so far. There's a lot of emotion to this. The fact that it takes place over such a long period of time just gives it an emotional weight that the actors, even just in the short time we've got to spend with them in this trailer, they're putting it all out there on the screen. Brett Goldstein, he's just so talented in everything that he does, and I'm so glad that he made that decision to start getting in front of the screen more, because his performances are just incredible. This is not Roy Kent, but there's a little bit of Roy's, like, I don't even know, his hesitation sometimes in love to say how he really feels. But like, this is just taken to the extreme, right? This is someone who's been in love with someone for over a decade and never said anything. And I feel like with the whole story about, the soulmate test, and then these two people who have lived their lives for so long, but now still feel drawn to each other, I think it's going to bring up some really complex responses, because it's a really, tricky issue. But I can see just from the trailer that we've seen that this love story between these two people is going to be really compelling as well. So yeah, there's a lot to it, but at the end of the day, I'm going to be bringing my tissues with me to the screening, because I really feel like this is going to leave me in tears no matter how it ends up. And this feels like one of those rom-coms that people are going to be talking about for a long time, and it's going to become a favorite for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think if you wanted to make a comparison to it, and I'll just say this, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, which left me in a snotty mess, much like this screening as well. So yeah, definitely get your tissues ready. And also, you know what? You will laugh as well. So get your tissues ready and get ready to laugh. All of You premieres September 26th on Apple TV+. And that leads us into releases, at the top of which is the confirmation that The Reluctant Traveller with Eugene Levy is getting a season 3, and that will debut September 19th on Apple TV+. So excited for that one. But we got some really interesting news for those in the UK, because Trying is coming to the BBC. This is a really, really interesting kind of, again, another roundabout with this show.
Yeah, Trying is the series that, of course, we adore and want to see live on forever. And this is kind of a new way for it to live on and possibly find a new audience, because the BBC, which is a broadcaster, of course, in the UK, purchased non-exclusive rights to air the first 3 seasons of the comedy led by Ray Spall and Esther Smith on its linear network and BBC iPlayer, with the first season launching September 8th. Now, don't worry if you watch the show on Apple TV+, because it's not going anywhere there. It will continue to be available on Apple TV Plus globally, including in the UK. So this isn't even one of those things where someone gets the rights to something in the UK and it's not available on Apple TV Plus there. We've seen that before. That's not even what's happening here. This is totally non-exclusive. It's just an opportunity for the BBC to air Trying as almost a new series, or a new to a lot of people anyway, and to get it in front of a wider audience with the first 3 seasons. And of course, that's all going to lead into the show's 5th season, which is currently in the works for Apple TV Plus via BBC Studios, which is the BBC's commercial arm. So they've been working together on this series for a long time. The BBC is stepping in a new role, but I think this can only be good news for the show that's going to point people towards the series. They'll watch the first 3 on BBC, but then the 4th and eventually the 5th will be on Apple TV Plus. And this just feels like a win overall to me, Sigmund.
Absolutely, and it's always felt like a BBC production, in all honesty. It's got a classic BBC sensibility to it, and in the later seasons, we've seen the characters travel. I'm looking forward to seeing where they potentially travel to in this upcoming 5th season. But yeah, very, very cool, and I'm looking forward to my grandparents finally watching Trying, because it's on the BBC, and they don't have to go into an app or do anything like that. They can just watch it in the linear way that they're used to, and that's great news. In development now, earlier this month it was revealed that Kristen Wiig and Jonah Hill would co-star in a sibling comedy film for Warner Brothers entitled Cut Off. Well, a US Copyright Office entry for the film now lists Apple Studios as the film's producer, which has me very, very excited. We're still waiting on Jonah Hill's other project to come to Apple, and hopefully that will come at the beginning of next year. But Cut Off is another Jonah Hill directed feature and is also co-written with Ezra Woods, with the film following wealthy siblings whose parents turn off the money faucet and force their adult kids to support themselves. I'm thinking Step Brothers with that short synopsis there. But this film is scheduled to begin filming this fall, with a theatrical release set for July 17th. 2026. So maybe we're getting a Jonah Hill double bill next summer?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that at all. Now, of course, Apple hasn't officially confirmed the company's involvement with this just yet. This is all based off of copyright information, but it shouldn't be too long and we'll get a press release and some official word on how this is all going to roll out. But of course, a theatrical release is nothing to be sad about as well, and we'll look forward to this one. Meanwhile, the Film and Television Industry Alliance listed a couple of new upcoming Apple Original series on its website this week. First up is Ascent. Helmed by writer and producer John Logan, Ascent delves into the tumultuous world of a seasoned crisis manager who finds herself entangled in a web of corporate espionage, international intrigue, and complex family dynamics. Then there's Off Weeks from showrunner Alyssa Nitting and director Michael Showalter. Nothing's been revealed about the show's plot, but it will delve into the complexities of relationships and human emotions. So again, these aren't official releases from Apple just yet. These are early hints at productions coming. But before long, we should get some official confirmation and learn more about what exactly is happening with Ascent and Off Weeks. In casting news, John Malkovich has joined the Season 2 cast of Bad Monkey as a series regular. While Season 1 was an adaptation of Carl Hiaasen's New York Times bestselling novel, Season 2 is an all-original story based on the continuing adventures of Vince Vaughn's Andrew Yancey, in which Malkovich will star as Spencer, the head of a major South Florida criminal organization. This is the second Apple project that Malkovich is now attached to, after the recent announcement that he'll also star in upcoming Will Sharp rom-com series Prodigy. So Apple's keeping John Malkovich quite busy, and I can't wait to see him on our screens on Apple TV Plus before long in both of these series.
Yep, lots and lots to look forward to, Devon. But we need to kind of go back a little bit, rein ourselves in, because ahead of an awe-dropping event next week, we've got quite a bit going on when it comes to Apple Originals this week. Starting today with new episodes of Platonic and Acapulco. And on Thursday, we get our Apple Arcade releases for the month of September. NFL Retro Ball 26, Jeopardy Daily, and My Talking Friends Plus. And on Friday, we see the streaming premiere of new Spike Lee Apple original film, Highest to Lowest, alongside the penultimate episode of Foundation and new episodes of Invasion and Chief of War. On Friday night, we see the return of Friday Night Baseball with Washington Nationals at Chicago Cubs at 2:20 p.m. Eastern, followed by Milwaukee Brewers at Pittsburgh Pirates at 6:40 p.m. Eastern. And on Saturday, we see Game Day return on MOS Season Pass, now just $29 for the rest of the season, or $25 for Apple TV Plus subscribers, with the MOS fun continuing through Sunday Night Soccer, featuring Kansas City versus Austin.
Of course, we mentioned it several times, but as a reminder, Tuesday is Apple's awe-dropping event at 10 a.m. Pacific. You can stream it in 4K HDR with spatial audio exclusively on Apple TV 4K, iPhone, iPad, and Apple Vision Pro in the Apple TV app. We'll be watching along, and we hope everyone else will be, and of course sharing our thoughts on social media and commenting, and of course seeing how our predictions go. Can't wait to look back at those with you next week, Sigmund. In terms of extras, we've got this month's Sizzle Reel, what's coming in September 2025, including Highest to Lowest, The Morning Show, and more. And 3 featurettes for Chief of War, including Jason Momoa's message to the USC football team, Jason Momoa and the cast sharing the language of Hawaii, and inside the episode 106 Ohana. Now that's what's available in terms of Apple Originals, but of course there's a ton happening in the TV app outside of Apple Originals segment. Each week you do a roundup of what's on the watch list for this week. What have we got streaming?
Well, first off, we've got a lot to catch up on, right, over the last few weeks. So there's a lot of original series and films that you should be checking out from previous watch lists of ours. But this week's interesting because it's quite varied. We're going to start with Architecton. This is available now on Premium VOD, and this is the latest film from master documentarian Victor Kosakowski, and it's a epic, intimate, yet poetic meditation on architecture and how the design and construction of buildings from the ancient past reveal our destruction. I checked out the trailer for this. I thought it was mesmerizing in so many ways, and I'm not sure so much as to whether this is a meditation on architecture or whether it's a meditation on the things that we use to build, like cement, and how actually, over time it shows weakness. I'm really, really looking forward to checking this one out. Then we have completely different. Right, so away from the artsy stuff, that's all the artsy stuff out of the way. Nobody 2 also makes its way to PVOD this week. It follows workaholic assassin Hutch Mansell, who takes his family on a much-needed vacation to the small tourist town of Plumerville. However, he soon finds himself in the crosshairs of a corrupt theme park operator, a shady sheriff, and a bloodthirsty crime boss. And if you're a fan of Bob Odenkirk, I implore you to watch this. The trailer had me rolling, and I loved the use of the theme tune from Vacation in the trailer. So yeah, highly, highly recommend checking that out. When it comes to comedy, we've also got The Naked Gun making its debut to PVOD this week. More on that in a moment. Alongside Lilo and Stitch making its Disney Plus debut, one of my highlights this year. Alongside Wednesday, Season 2 Part 2 on Netflix, and the return of Beavis and Butthead with Mike Judge's Beavis and Butthead Season 3 on Paramount Plus. On Thursday, on Peacock, and hopefully this is worth the subscription bump that was recently introduced, The Paper makes its debut. This is from the makers of The Office, the documentary crew that immortalized Dunder Mifflin's Scranton branch is in search of a new subject when they discover a historic Midwestern newspaper and a publisher trying to revive it, which I think will be very interesting, not just from a comedy point of view, but from a journalistic point of view as well. Be interesting to see how they kind of poke the bear with certain frustrations, as even new media is starting to struggle a little bit these days. And then on Saturday, we have the debut of, again, a film that is going to be for an acquired taste, Friendship, on HBO Max. And lastly, also on HBO Max this week, is the debut of Task, which sees FBI agent Tom leading a task force in a Philadelphia suburb to put an end to a string of drug house robberies led by an unsuspecting family man. This stars Mark Ruffalo, Emilia Jones, Tom Pelmany, and Martha Plimpton, to name just a few. So that's everything that we've got for our watch list this week, Devon. But there is something missing, and, well, is it a murder?
Well, Sigmund, there is a very famous podcast that says they can only discuss murders that take place in the building, so we must know there's been a new crime at the Arconia. Of course, I'm referring to the return of Only Murders in the Building this Tuesday on Hulu and Disney+. This has become one of my favorite staple series over the 5 years it's been running, Sigmund, and what I love about it is that it feels classic in the sense that you can just rely on it coming back every year. And they have a new mystery every year. Of course, it follows these three characters played by Selena Gomez, Steve Martin, and Martin Short, who are crime podcast junkies who decide to start their own crime podcast and investigate murders. And then things quickly just start falling apart around them, people dropping left and right. This season follows the murder of their doorhop, which is one of those things that took me by surprise that was going to be the premise for this year, but I think it also gives it some stakes. But I just love each season coming back to this series. I love that it's a place for Steve Martin and Martin Short to continue to share their comedy with the world with a younger voice like Selena Gomez. That's not a pairing that you would necessarily think would work, but people seem to love it and keep coming back for it, and they get an amazing guest cast every year that continues to grow the world. So I'm excited for this series to return. It comes back Tuesday on Hulu and Disney+. And if you love a good murder mystery like I do, check out Only Murders in the Building.
I was really surprised when I saw this in the Up Next picks, because I had no idea that this upcoming season was coming so soon. It totally creeped up on me. As did The Naked Gun, which is my Up Next pick for this week. I'm a big, big fan of the older films that were headed by Leslie Nielsen. This is a return to form for the Naked Gun franchise, which I'm really, really happy about. This time following Lieutenant Frank Drebin Jr., who becomes a police officer like his legendary father and must save the police department from shutting down by solving a case. And this is the kind of fast, very quick-witted, slapstick almost comedy at times. A joke a second, some that I missed. And honestly, when I saw this in cinemas, the jokes and the wit was coming so thick and fast that it almost wore me out. There's also a really good reason to watch the end credits because there's gags all the way through that as well. This is starring Liam Neeson as Frank Drebin Jr., who's brilliant in this comedic role, alongside Pamela Anderson. You've got the wrestler Cody Rhodes. You've got Paul Walter Hauser, who is also actor wrestler these days. Liza Koshy, Kevin Durand, Danny Huston, who's brilliant in this, alongside some cameos like Busta Rhymes and Eddie Yu is in this as well. So highly recommend The Naked Gun. And if you've not yet seen the original films and Files from Police Squad, you've got to check them out as well. A great pick. One that will make you laugh, because actually we do a lot of drama, but laughter is a good therapy.
Yeah, we could all use a good laugh, Sigmund, so that's a great pick. Thanks for sharing it. That's all from us this week. We want to thank everyone so much for listening in. We always want to hear from you. If you have any thoughts on what we talk about or things that you think we should be watching or recommending, be sure to let us know. You can contact us on social media via the links in the show notes, or you can reach out to us via our contact form, which we'll also link in the show notes.
We'll be back next week to recap the highs and lows of Apple's event, alongside highest to lowest, and hopefully a new Apple TV. So until then, stay safe, watch some Apple TV, play some Apple Arcade, and have a great week. It's showtime.